Thanks for joining us for the Hospitality Hangout, a hospitality-focused podcast where the founders of Branded Strategic share their insights and bring technology and innovation leaders that are making things happen in the industry we love. My name is Jimmy Frischling, otherwise known as the finance guy. I'd like to introduce my partner, Mr. Michael Schatzberg, also known as the restaurant guy.
And thanks for that kind introduction, Jimmy. And to all those listening, feel free to call me Shatsy. Together, we are the personalities behind Branded Strategic Hospitality. We work at the intersection of hospitality, technology, innovation, and capital. And Jimmy, I got to tell you, we got a crazy good show today. We are live in Orlando.
We are live. We're excited to bring you this special edition of the Hangout live from the ICR conference in Orlando, Florida, live on the road. Let's talk about the show for a quick second. Shatsy, what's the banter out there on the floor? You've been running around like a madman.
I got to tell you, Jimmy, it is a live and well here in Orlando at the JW Marriott and Ritz-Carlton combined. It is a massive complex of hotel rooms, bars, restaurants, and conference rooms. And it is a buzz with everyone in retail, food service, hospitality. I mean, it is crazy. It is really great to be back. Remember, we haven't been back here since 2020. Since that pestery bug.
Yes.
Ruined everything for us for years.
Yep. Pandemic can ruin a good time. But we're really thrilled that ICR had us back. And this is the 25th year. And let's jump into it. We have a special guest that we're kicking things off with. And Shatsy, I totally jumped into your segment here. So should I keep going? You want to take
keep going, Jimmy? I like to mix it up. I think that's what makes this podcast so much fun. We mix it up. We just go crazy.
We're going crazy. All right, here we go. We have our guest, Mr. Jim Bayless, with Capital Spring and Sizzling Platter. Mr. Bayless, it is great to see you.
And like 10,000 restaurants or something crazy.
It's a little less, but I got to say pretty close.
It's getting close to 10,000.
I got to tell you,
just a couple thousand away.
It's a good day when we get Mr. Bayless on the call, on the Hangout with us. So, Mr. Bayless, what's new at Capital Spring? I know last September you guys invested in Bushfire Kitchen. Any other breaking news you can share?
Well, we did close on a fund back in April, our latest fund.
Is that breaking news?
It is breaking news, even though it's a couple of months later.
Yeah, but still, it's breaking on the podcast. I don't think anyone has anyone heard that before. Breaking news.
We're excited about it. I mean, we're going to continue to invest in the restaurant space. We've invested out of that fund already in some very exciting ventures and opportunities. As I think you guys know, what makes us unique is that we invest both in debt and equity. So in some situations, we're financing transactions. In other situations, we're providing equity, and we do minority and majority and very flexible. So lots of exciting opportunities ahead of us. We think while the M&A seems to have calmed down a little bit, just based on some of the multiples that are out there right now, we're excited about the pipeline that we have before us. So
what can you tell us? What are you looking at? What's the next move?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we're looking at some really good equity opportunities right now.
Can you tell us a target for our audience? We need to give them some meat.
Look, anything.
The only people listening to this podcast are the three of us.
I would say, anything transaction size, probably 15, 20 million and above.
Getting closer, Jimmy. 15, 20 million.
You can read between the lines. You know what he's talking about.
I think you know exactly what he's talking about. So, is it Mexican?
And so you figure the multiples are, 2 and 3 times EBITDA these days. I'm just kidding. So
we're narrowing it down. There's only 80,000 restaurant possibilities at this point.
So you're saying we're getting closer.
I think we're getting closer there.
So, yeah, I mean, it's hard for us because, we're, like I said, we're so flexible. We look at so many opportunities in so many different ways. It's hard to narrow it down to one or two.
Jim, you're a veteran of the conference circuit, as we are. What's it like to be back at ICR? What's the buzz? And if I could ask you, what separates the ICR show from others that you've been, that we attend?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great show because it's a little more investment banker focused, public company focused.
That's why Jimmy loves it. He feels very at home here.
Yes.
He's got whole bankers here. He's with a lot of suits and ties. He loves that look.
All the finance people.
Yeah, he loves it. I mean, he saw the sponsor list when he walked in. I mean, I know this is a
keep it classy. Keep it classy
show. So, but he got really excited. I'm just going to say, got really excited.
I was afraid of where you were going to go there, Shatz.
Yeah, no, I had to drag it back. I pull it back a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's a great show. It definitely is unique from that perspective. Public companies sharing some of their earnings and forecasts and the outlook for the business. And so that's unique to it. Wednesday's obviously the private event, so those that want more private companies can attend Wednesday.
Yeah, that was what I heard from a lot of people that are attending last night. We were talking about it, and they said that when they would go into the meeting rooms and literally the information being shared to them, they feel like is it's different than normal shows where it's more fluff. They said you're really getting into it. Like you said, you've got publicly traded companies talking about forecasting and where their business is headed. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and then they have Q&As and breakout sessions. You can reach out directly and ask them.
I got to get Jimmy in there because no one likes to ask questions. But Jimmy, I mean, honestly, you got to get in there.
I love it.
Because these are publicly traded companies, and you could ask crazy
anything.
And I don't say that
and they probably will answer nothing.
They don't answer any of the questions. You can ask them whatever you want.
You can ask. They want,
That's all right. I still like to ask. Listen, it wouldn't be a podcast without a crystal ball moment. So we're going to ask you, where do you see restaurants and technology 2 years from now? Being that with the ICR show today, we want to know when we come back here in 2 years, what do you think are going to be the hot topics? What will have changed or evolved? What are you thinking?
I mean, the buzz right now is margin. So I think as we look ahead, it's going to be how margins have evolved over the next 2 years. Definitely people are talking about innovation. I mean, I think there's a couple of sessions today on it. I think, fast forward 2 years, we're going to see a lot more innovation in the restaurant space. You're not going to drive through a drive-through in the next probably 24, 36 months. It doesn't have a chat bot. You're going to start to be able to pay with your face. There's just going to be a lot of innovation.
Will Jimmy be able to use his face to pay? I want to know, will anyone accept Jimmy's face? Because that's interesting.
My wife and daughter do. I got that going for me, which is nice.
If it's associated with his credit card.
Yes.
Okay, so Jimmy's driving through and his face will pay.
Yes.
Or the person accepting Jimmy's face will pay.
Yeah, well, I'll just have a picture of Jimmy's face. And when I got to the drive-thru,
You can use Jimmy's face.
I'll hack his face.
Let me ask you, I just want to check Bushfire Kitchen. What can you tell us about Bushfire Kitchen?
So that was a smaller investment for us. It was a 4-unit chain in Southern California.
That sounds a little atypical for you.
It was atypical for us, but incredible return on investments for their growth. It was the fast casual space, but chef driven, value oriented. It just checked a lot of boxes for us. So
is that something you'll be growing in unit count now?
We are, for sure. We've opened one already. We just proved another site
Breaking
yesterday.
news, Jimmy.
Breaking news.
They went from 4 to 5.
Big increase.
In a very short period of time.
We did.
That investment sounds incredible already.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a finance guy, Jimmy. 4 to 5, that's big.
Meaningful uptick.
Yeah, that's a big uptick. It's like 25%.
Yes.
It's huge.
And actually, we're in the process of raising another fund that's going to specifically target those kinds of investments, those growthier, kind of newer stage deals. So we're really excited for that. We hope to get that going, somewhere in Q2 of this year. As well as expand. We have a debt fund that just does debt in the franchise space, and we're hoping to expand that fund so we can provide more capital sort of in the mid single digits. So we're excited for that as well.
I love it. It sounds like Capital Springs got a lot of stuff going on.
We do.
Busy, right? All right, listen. The greatest segment of all podcasts is about to come. Jimmy, we are going to do the branded quickfire Orlando ICR edition. This hasn't been done in years.
We're making T-shirts.
We're going to make T-shirts.
Is the first question how to get to this room?
I did text everybody. Listen, our podcast does not warrant the greatest real estate yet. So we are getting anything we can take.
We're pacing ourselves, Sergeant.
Yes, we are lucky that we're actually in the hotel. The first option was outside of the lake. So we're super excited. I'm going to ask you 5 lightning round questions. Don't think too hard. Just give me the first answer comes to mind. Are you ready for branded quickfire Orlando?
I'm not, but go ahead anyway.
Here we go. Disney World or Universal Studios?
That's a tough one. Disney World.
True or false? The original name of the Orlando Magic NBA team was supposed to be the Orlando Juice.
False. That sounds ridiculous.
I got to tell you, I think it sounds ridiculous also, but it's true. A contest was held in 1987. Jimmy, I think you probably remember that, to pick the name of the basketball, the NBA team. The finalists were the Heat, The Tropics, the Juice and the Magic. The Tropics would have been awesome.
Tropics.
What was that? Will Ferrell,
Will
right?
Ferrell.
Oh, no, I mean, come on. Anyway, so they did. In 1987, they picked, and I guess everybody voted for Juice, but I guess, as you said, it sounded ridiculous. I guess ownership said, well, we put it to everybody. We're going with Magic anyway. So, favorite Orlando-born singer, Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, or Christina Aguilera?
Also a tough one. Got to go with my boy Justin.
Justin Timberlake. Favorite television show that is set in Orlando, Coach, Fresh Off the Boat, or Double Dare?
Double Dare was based here.
I don't even know what Double Dare is. I was going to ask Jimmy what Double Dare is. I figure that's got to be a Jimmy show.
That's what you ask him all the time. Double Dares, right?
Yeah.
Double Dare.
I'd have to go with Coach.
Coach, an oldie but a goodie.
I
had no idea that was in Orlando either.
I was going to go Coach.
Yeah, okay. If you were to ride Space Mountain with either Jimmy Rye, who are you choosing to ride with?
Both of you guys. Are you kidding? I can't choose one. It's like choosing your favorite child.
And why? Up. All right, Jimbo.
Well, you know what? We get some static, but I love the answer. He chose us both. Politically correct. Oh,
Yeah, no, you keep going, Jimmy. I just turned the mics down. I just turned the headsets down because it was getting crazy static, right?
Well, static, schmatic. Listen, Jim, we want to thank you so much for coming by. We know we took you about a mile and a half away from your next meeting.
He's got restaurants to buy.
He's got restaurants to buy. He's got people to meet. He's got bankers to see.
And our room is 2.5 miles from the actual conference.
Anyway, we appreciate you, everything you and your team at Capspring does for the industry, and we appreciate you being on the show. Thank you so much.
Have a great day. We'll see you tonight.
Have a great show.
Awesome. Jimbo, I got to tell you, it is fun to be in Orlando. I'm looking forward to trying to get outside a little bit today and see some sun, but we are having a great time, ICR. I mean, it was a big night, big day, and Jim Bayless is killing it over at Capitol Spring. They are rocking it out. Jimmy, I got to tell you, we got another rock star guest. You're like,
look at us. Look who we're getting.
How do we get a rock star guest? How did they even find the room?
How did they find the room? Leaving breadcrumbs.
I have absolutely no idea. Anyway, we are sitting here right now with our friend, Scott Lawton, partner, founder, CEO, CTO, CFO, president,
You might have added a few too many titles, but that's all right. He does a lot.
President,
He does a
Senior
lot.
Vice President at Bar Taco. He does it all over at Bar Taco. Scott, great to have you here. Great seeing you. You guys are killing it at Bar Taco. You have now 14,000 locations. Am I correct on that?
Pretty close.
Close to 14,000 locations.
Yeah. We're almost there by the end of this year.
And in 1 year, they opened it.
If we were playing The Price is Right, you'd be out.
I'd be out.
You'd be out.
All kidding aside, give us the 411 on Bar Taco. How many locations do you have now? What's going on in 23? When are you going public? Tell me everything.
Well, good morning, fellas. I love that you scheduled me first thing this morning.
Well, I saw you out late last night with me at the bar, closing that up. I figured, let's do an early podcast.
Good timing. Good timing. But no, we actually have 24 restaurants right now. We're going to open 6 this year. And we're opening 4 in the first 3 months.
All company owned, right?
All company owned.
Awesome.
That's right. Yeah. So this is a big year for us. We're really excited. We've been kind of building up since COVID. All these are COVID deals. Then I got all, so we're finally getting to launch the new fleet, and we're super excited about it.
And what cities are you targeting? What areas?
So some of it's infill in other cities, in the cities that we've been in, and then we're also going to go to Chicago this year. We're going into Bucktown.
I love it.
And we're going to Charleston, right on King Street. So
I haven't been, but I heard Charleston's rocking it out.
Yes. I tell you what, that town, man. I mean, I've gone there my whole life, but in the last 5 years, something's happening there. It's magic. It really is.
I love it. And what are you on the tech? I mean, you're a big tech guy. You're testing everything. You're putting all sorts of new tech into the stores. What can you tell us on the tech side? What are you adding in the tech stack at Bar Taco?
We're really focused right now on the back of the house. The past few years, we've always focused on the guest experience and sort of the service model, and we feel like we've got that locked down pretty well now. And we're focused on what we can do to sort of maximize efficiency in the back of the house. And with the challenges of labor and food costs and all of those types of things, how can we leverage technology to make it easier and better?
I love it. I love it. FSR, great magazine that we love. Shout out to our past guest, Danny Klein. He was a guest a few years ago. Jimmy, you don't remember, but he
love
was
Danny
fantastic. Klein. Awesome. He included you in their article in the 2023 biggest tech trends. You predicted that the biggest topic of 23 will be protecting margins without gouging the guest. And that is a quote, Jimmy. I did not make that up. That is a quote from our guest, Scott Lawton.
Who said that quote?
Scott Lawton.
Boom.
The
Look at that.
CEO, founder, and CTO and CFO of Bar Taco. Can you share a little more about this and how it relates to what you're doing at Bar Taco?
Sure. Yeah. It's getting tougher and tougher, as we all know in the industry, with the labor costs and with commodity costs. And, for the past few years, we've been able to take price. I remember my friend Fred LaFranc said, now is the time to take price about a year ago. And he was right.
Fred LaFranc is a genius.
But maybe not now. Maybe not now. Now's not the time as much. So we're going to have better ideas, better efficiency. And we're going to have to figure out ways to drop more to the bottom line without adding to the top line. So it's how do we get better at it?
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, as a Johnny Walker black drinker, we talk about this all the time, Jimmy. I remember it was a $10 drink, then 12, then 15, 18. I went somewhere, maybe in Vegas, I don't know where, $25.
They get you with the Johnny Black.
They get you now, but to your point, it's just at some point it's got to slow down now. And now
a basic cocktail is $12 anywhere you go, at least. You know.
Now, I think the relationship between the guest and restaurants is such a unique and special one that I think what you said, Scott, really crystallizes. It can't be all at the expense of the guest. It can't be gouging the guest because you're going to force them to stay home. You're going to force them to find other ways to do this. They want to be out and about. They want to be in your joints experiencing the essence of hospitality. So I think I love the quote, and I have to tell you, I think I'm going to use that quote with attribution.
Yes.
With attribution. All right, listen, later today, you're going to be presenting Bar Taco alongside company president. See, there is a president, Shatsy, Anthony Valletta, and also CFO. There is a CFO, Shatsy, Matt Wilbur.
What are you trying to say, that Scott does not hold all those titles?
I'm saying he's got a team. He's got a really good team. Can you give us a little, if you can, a little preview to our listeners who aren't able to attend the session? What do you think you're going to be hitting on today?
First, one correction. Matt Wilbur's our COO.
So, sorry.
People.
I told you, Scott Lawton's the
people
CFO.
People care about what comes after the C. So I want to make sure everybody knows what's going on.
I apologize. That is clearly my fault because I read it on the script. And if it's on the script,
typo.
I say
what are you,
Will Ferrell?
Will Ferrell, what is that?
So preview, I don't know. It's a fireside chat. He's going to fire some questions at me, and I'm going to try and answer my best. But I really want to talk about sort of our growth plan, how proud I am of our service model, and how it really pays our team in a really good way. How they make a real living wage, and how we're going to be building this team this year. And we think we've really built a brand that employees want to work at. And right now, I think that is the difference between the good and the bad brands is the places where the good people want to work.
That's
so I want to talk about that.
What time is that?
2:00.
In what room?
That's a good question.
All right. The good thing is, Jimmy, we don't have to go now because he just told you what he's going to say.
Yeah.
Pretty good. We just bought ourselves a half hour.
I'm going to go. I want to go.
We just bought ourselves a half hour.
Fireside chat with Scott Lawton.
No heckling.
No heckling. That's a nice thing.
Listen, I
Listen,
was going to ask you a question, by the way.
Listen, my last question on this bit. You're no stranger, neither are we, to the trade show circuit. What separates ICR from the other shows?
I think it's one of the few where all the real players are here. So we all get to see each other, which is a lot of fun.
Jimmy and I are here, so it can't be true.
Exactly. But, and it's also one where we get to see retail. And, typically it's just
Really
us
important.
in restaurants. And retail is a big part.
I said that yesterday, Jimmy.
us.
It's interesting because it's usually just restaurant or hospitality folks. Here, there's just some really interesting retail.
There is. And, when I'm thinking about real estate and I'm thinking about where the next Bar Taco is going to be, I think about retail a lot. When we thought about the brand Bar Taco, we were actually looking at retail more than we were restaurants. We wanted to be a lifestyle brand like Urban Outfitters or Anthropologie. The idea was to create this place that had an entire ethos, So I love listening to retail. They're way ahead of us.
Yes.
And a lot of
stuff.
CPG here, too. It's real interesting. I was up early doing the Lululemon yoga thing, Jimmy, at 6:45.
I saw you stretching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen him in Spanx?
He's a very handsome man.
Not a good look.
Very wiry.
In my
Wiry.
Lululemon.
All right, listen, it wouldn't be a podcast without a crystal ball moment, okay? Where we ask our guests where they see restaurants and technology 2 years from now. Being that we're at ICR today, we want to know when we come back here 2 years from now, what do you think are going to be the hot topics? What will have changed or evolved in your opinion?
The weird thing about tech, there's a lot of consolidation. Companies get bought. What was a SaaS product becomes a feature in another system.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to have that crystal ball. But I do think we'll see some consolidation of systems. I think we're going to see some new POS products that we've never seen before. Just a whole new idea around POS. I think people are at the point where they have too many products, so they're going to have to figure out ways to consolidate. I think we're going to see some new players out there, specifically in the POS world.
There you go.
Love it. I love it. All right, let's get to the final and greatest segment of all podcasts.
All podcasts, all time.
In the entire world, the branded quickfire. Orlando edition. Are you ready for it?
Okay,
I'm going to ask you 5 lightning round questions. Don't think too hard. First answer that comes to your mind. Here we go. Disney World or Universal Studios?
Universal.
True or false? There are over 100 lakes in Orlando.
True.
That is correct, sir.
Correct, sir.
Orlando is home to more than 100 lakes. Jimmy, I don't know if you knew this, but Lake Eola in downtown Orlando is actually a giant sinkhole and is 80 feet at its deepest point. Now, you think I read that on a script. Jimmy, I didn't. I know that information.
Yes.
That is just a tidbit of little trivia that Shatsy just comes up with.
In the mind of Michael Schatzberg.
Yeah, that's what I know. Lake Eola is one of my, I swim there all the time.
Favorite lake.
I took the family and the kids. I love it. Favorite Orlando-born celebrity? Wesley Snipes, Wayne Brady, or Mandy Moore?
It's got to be Wesley Snipes.
Nice.
Yeah, 100%. What happened to Wesley? I haven't seen him in a while. Maybe he has some tax problems.
Take it easy now.
I'm no shaming. I'm just saying I haven't seen him in a movie.
Scott's favorite Orlando-born celebrity.
Favorite Orlando. I just think he didn't pay his taxes for a while. Orlando Magic or the Miami Heat?
Miami Heat.
If you were to ride Space Mountain with Jimmy and I, who do you think is the first to start screaming when the roller coaster drops? Jimmy or I?
Jimmy.
Jimmy's
I think he's right. I think he's right.
Gotta be. Anybody who loves Barry Manilow,
I'm a weeper.
is probably crying.
I'm a weeper and a screamer.
Yeah, I agree. Jimmy be singing Barry Manilow on his way down.
Hey, that was from a different podcast. The listeners today don't get that information. Listen, Scott, we want to thank you so much for stopping by, helping us out. Hospitality Hangout on the road, Orlando edition, I should say. Have a great rest of your show. We look forward to seeing you.
He's going back to sleep.
And we'll see you at your fireside
He's
chat.
going right back to bed.
Oh, yeah, by the way,
Right.
congrats to the...
They don't see, but I'm here in my bathrobe right now.
Congrats to your dogs. Congrats to the
Go
dogs.
dogs.
Go dogs.
Thank you. We got to do that.
Awesome. Thanks
Thank
a lot,
you.
Scott.
All right. See ya.
Yep. I got to tell you, another great guest, Jimmy. Bar Taco's killing it, man.
Killing it.
Opening 6 new stores. I mean, it's awesome. Listen, it gives you a little taste of what goes on here at ICR. It really is not just, this is one of those few shows. It's more than just restaurants here. It's a hospitality really probably just makes up, I don't know, maybe a third. And you got some great retailers, some great CPG. It's really interesting. It's really cool. Listen, Jimmy, we got another amazing guest. Really, one of the, I would say the best dressed person in all of the industry. Jimmy, you hear what I'm saying?
It's a big statement.
In the entire
You might
industry.
be right, but it's a big statement.
And we have this person here on our podcast. That's right. Welcome, Mr. Fred LaFranc from Results Through Strategy, the best dressed, Jimmy?
Well, I'm gonna expand on that, Chatsy. I think, yes, certainly he is a very well-dressed person. I would say he's also one of the most highly respected thought leaders of this industry.
That
I will put that forward with confidence and boldness and say, I dare anyone to take the other side.
Not the best dressed.
He can have that too. I'm telling you, one of the great thought leaders of our industry right here.
Totally
We've got him.
It was not easy to get him here, but we did. Let's get to it. Fred, thank you for joining us. Give us the 411.
Well, before we get started, I years ago there was a great show that was on the radio that was sadly canceled because someone died, called Car Talk. I think you guys are the new Car Talk.
Car Talk.
love
You remember
it.
Car Talk?
I got to tell you, I know Jerry does comedians getting coffee in car.
I gotta tell you, as soon as we're done here, I'm
You gotta
googling
go
car
listen.
talk.
You gotta go listen.
I'm
to
gonna
Car
Google
Talk.
Car
There's
Talk.
A couple of brothers. All they did was talk about cars, and you guys have replaced them.
There we go.
We talk about nothing.
And it was a beloved show. Well, they talked about cars.
Yeah, we don't talk about nothing. We're not Seinfeld. We're not doing nothing.
We really are.
We're
are
doing
the
something.
Seinfeld of podcasts.
We're doing something.
We got nothing going on
So-
here. Fred, let's jump
Thank you,
into it. I
Fred.
appreciate that. We're going to go check that out. Give us the 411 on results through strategy for our listeners who may not know you and the company as well as we do. What's going on over there? What can you tell us? You guys are always ahead of the curve. What kind of trends and insights can you share with us? Give me your 2 cents on what's to come in 2023. I just asked you 12 questions. Answer them one
Watch
by
how
one.
he synthesizes this. Watch this.
I'll make it as pithy as possible. So, results through strategy. We started in 2007. Some of my co-founding partners and I decided that the industry needed an advisory firm that was not just an unemployed exec trolling for a job. And we got together with 4 of us and now have over 15 entrepreneurial experts with minimum 30 years experience in their area of expertise. We help emerging restaurant brands with a pathway to growth. We help legacy brands that need to revitalize their brand because they've lost relevance with their customers. And we do a tremendous amount of work with technology companies that are trying to sell to the space. That's the biggest thing that we've been doing.
And that's incredible. Is there a sweet spot, like when you talk about legacy brands that are revitalizing? Are you helping with menu development, or are you helping with its brand? Is it logos? Is it the messaging? Is it what kind of stuff?
It's all of that plus the operations, the concept itself. So we did years ago we did a big turnaround project for Boston Market when they were owned by Sun Capital.
Right. I mean, at one point they were killing it.
Oh, they were, and then they got into trouble with the SEC. They went bankrupt. McDonald's picked them up, kept all the good sites, packaged the rest of them, sold them off to Sun Capital. But we did a big turnaround for them and changed the model from a 1980s style cafeteria to much more, we called it America's Kitchen Table.
Right.
And that was an example. We retrained over 10,000 employees.
Wow.
That was a year-long project. That's an example of a very large-scale thing. We worked with a lot of 75-year-old brands. We did the original turnaround at Steak and Shake.
Another one. I mean, that was also killer, and then it was revitalized.
Right. But as far as emerging brands, my partner James McGee, he's been an interim CFO, for many brands. He did Mendocino Farms for over 3 years. We've done a lot of work.
I love Mendocino
We've
Farms.
done work
by
with
the way.
I've done work with Burger Lounge. He's now the interim or the acting CFO for Dave's Hot Chicken, hottest brand out there.
Oh, that is the hottest. That is the hottest brand out there. They're growing 100 stores already, or something like that, right?
They've got a lot going on, and so those are the things we do. So it's not so much a sweet spot. Every one of our partners has a sweet spot. So if you need supply chain, we can do supply chain. You need franchising work, we can do that. I already mentioned concept development, financials. I think all along those lines. I put teams together for whatever the project requires.
I love it. That is really awesome.
Yeah, I spend my time primarily doing organizational development, leadership development, helping
And
with
podcasts.
strategy.
Do a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
A lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
He's a figure.
Yeah.
A major figure on the circuit.
Dude, trying to get him on a podcast is no easy task. You got to book him up months.
We booked him 3 years ago.
It was in 2021 we had to get him booked.
As far as what's going on in 2023, I think I've been using a metaphor for a long time that we live in a whitewater world. If you've ever been whitewater rafting,
yes.
There's, class 1 waves is row your boat gently down the stream. Class 5 is like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Yes.
We have been in class 4
I like
5
3.
waves.
That's my sweet spot.
That's your sweet spot. Well, this world's been in 4 and 5 for the last few years.
Yes.
And your head could snap off because things have changed so rapidly. I've been blessed to have the opportunity to be running a commercial bakery in Atlanta. So I've seen the restaurant industry from a very different lens and seen the pain that these operators have gone through. And 3 years ago it was like, get me anything at any price. Now it's like, wait a minute, supply chain is stabilized, so I want to get a better sense of what my price is going to be, and so forth and so on. But it was Scott mentioned earlier, labor continues to be a problem. Everyone's looking for better productivity. We have a labor shortage, 500,000 people short in the industry, and you got to get by. There's restaurants that now are closing Sunday, Monday nights because they just can't get labor.
Yep.
They're closing early. Now, you guys are New York.
Some of our
so
restaurants,
you guys are doing it differently.
We used to have 24, a couple stores in New York City, 24 hours, and now we just can't get people to work those shifts.
Or we'll have a section, we'll leave it closed, and the guest comes in, they can't believe, how come they can't sit? There's plenty of open tables. It's the lack of staff.
Right.
And that we don't want to have them sit and have a bad experience. But you're right. The labor issue is very powerful.
And in a way, the seeds of that were planted a long time ago. We have treated restaurant employees in not in a very good way. Everyone realized
100%.
when COVID happened, the employees realized I've got no safety net, unlike other industries.
Yes.
And that's why they chose to go elsewhere. And would you rather work in a hot kitchen or go drive an Uber?
Yeah, 100%. You listen, in a lot of cases, you can make more money doing that. So, I mean, people have made the change. But I think what's interesting, I think it's good, is it's also forced the industry to recognize that they do have to take care of their employees better.
And the thing that employees want more than anything else is control of their time. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that's most important.
I think that's why a lot of people go into the hospitality space is the flexibility. They love that they have the flexibility to change their schedule around and things like that.
Yeah, but again, when there's I agree with Fred's comment, and if your question, Fred, about hot kitchen or Uber driver wasn't rhetorical, I'll say I'd rather drive the Uber. I'd rather be in control of my own
radio, get the air conditioning.
You flip it off. You flip off. You don't want to work for 2 hours.
It's the gig economy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so I think that's the big thing. Now, and the other irony is, let's talk about there's been a lot of automation, digitization of the restaurant industry, right? You guys are obviously doing investments in a lot of restaurant tech stocks like I am. It's interesting that, let's take kiosks. They've been around for over 25 years, but now the lines have crossed. Are you going to pay someone like California with FastTag $22 an hour to take an order when the customer can do it themselves a lot better and not be concerned about standing in line?
And I think you get a bigger, they spend more money when they do it themselves.
Exactly. It's a better experience for the guests from their perception because they're controlling the experience. And for $22 an hour, I can go buy a kiosk for $25,000 that can replace that human being, and it's mindless work. Robotics is coming more into play. So I think the industry is going to continue to automate and digitize. It has no choice because of this manpower shortage, and it'll make for a better experience for the employee.
And I would just say that I think it's an industry that has been late in many aspects to the game. When it comes to automation, because we've seen it in so many other industries. So it's just something that, to your point, I think labor has been so, let's say, inexpensive.
Correct.
Over the term, over the long term. So now it's becoming more expensive, and people are now looking for automation. Whereas you say in like the automotive industry, for example, those wages were up a long time ago, so they were forced to go into automation.
Right.
So I think that's
look at a car factory. It's all robots.
Just robots, right?
Yes.
And 4 guys making sure that they don't touch the robots. I mean, that's
but 50 years ago it was full of people.
Exactly,
and it's just been replaced.
And that's what's going to happen with this industry. We're at a big inflection point. I know when I started in the industry, the greats of the Norm Brinker and all those, the founders of Dunkin' Donuts, and they were still alive, and they were the grand masters. Now we're seeing this new generation. I think it's the most exciting time to be in this business. I love what the Gen Xers are doing to the restaurant industry because they grew up with technology. They're digital natives. We're digital pioneers. We got arrows in our back from testing technology. They grew up with it. So they automatically turn to technology in a way we would never have conceived of. And it's wonderful to see that. You just had Scott on here, and he's running his restaurants with one dine.
100%. He's all in on digitization.
It's all a digital experience for him. And the guests are very happy to come in, get the QR code, place their order, do all that stuff. And the best thing about what Scott's done at Bar Taco is he has not lost the hospitality. He has not turned it into this tech environment. It's high touch and high tech.
I think it's the opposite. He's very, very mindful of making sure the guest experience is fantastic.
Exactly.
And hospitality is a big part of that. Yeah. It's not just getting it out.
Yeah, Bar Taco is a good example of what I think you can morph the industry to more. And the other one is Chick-fil-A. I mean, Chick-fil-A has been amazing in their use of technology. I always tell people technology cannot replace bad food and bad service. It can't. It can only amplify what you believe. Chick-fil-A shows that. So when they open up the throttle and have people with iPads out there and 2 drive-through lanes, so forth and so on, they're doing $8 million a year on 6 days a week AUV. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
It's because they have a great culture with people who understand service, and then they use technology to leverage it even more.
And they got good food.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like I said, you got to have the basics there.
You got to have the good.
No, and I think your point about tech and labor, the tech is not the labor destroyer. It is actually going to make the jobs in this industry more interesting, better, and more satisfying.
Correct.
The idea that you can use kiosk, which I agree with you, has been around forever, but now that inversion point where you want to have a success manager, somebody who's overseeing the tablets, engaging with the guests, and let the guests use the tablets accordingly. But I completely agree. Listen, what's the buzz around the show? Is there any hot topics? And maybe you touched on a couple of them. But what do you see that's happening out there that everyone might be talking about?
I think it remains to see how. I think there's a bigger theme. A lot of the presentation yesterday, people are talking about how they've come out of COVID and they've morphed into a sort of a different DNA beast. The omni-channel of restaurants has always been, on-premise dining was the biggest. COVID took care of that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have takeout, which became big, delivery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Drive-through, if you're that concept, and then catering. Catering cratered during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It's all coming back. And so all these restaurant companies are coming back in a very different profile. The other thing that's been interesting is the consolidation that's been occurring. Brands buying other brands. And we go through this in the industry with waves. Remember when McDonald's bought Donatos and Chipotle, then they got rid of them because they had to focus again. We're seeing consolidation again. It was mentioned, about BurgerFi buying Anthony's
coal-fired
pizza, and coal-fired pizza is doing better than the BurgerFi concept. So it gives them in this case a defensive position. But that continues to be. I'm just watching this convergence, and we'll see. 4 or 5 years from now, they'll be splitting them off
They'll
again.
be splitting. I'm sure Anthony's will eventually go back to being Anthony's coal-fired pizza by itself.
Everyone's sick and tired of talking about labor, but it's going to be labor still remains the buzz, and then commodities. Commodity.
Mm-hmm.
I see it firsthand at the bakery. Our flour costs are 50% higher than they were a year ago because of the war in Ukraine. Even though our wheat comes from North Dakota, but it raises the market.
Sure.
And you talked about your drinking habits getting more expensive. Either you're going to have to make more money or trade down on your Johnny Walker Black.
I'm going to have to go Johnny Red.
Johnny Red. I can't. I won't.
I won't.
The chef can't. He won't.
What about blue?
I won't eat. I haven't afforded blue in years.
Yeah. So if you went from blue to black, now you got to go to red. So I think it's just interesting. The economics have changed. You see every once in a while, I see someone post a menu from 1932 and a filet mignon was $1.10, right?
Yes.
And now you got to mortgage your house now to get a filet.
$65, $70 for a steak anywhere you go.
Yeah. So that remains to be the big concern people have externally. What I think, though, is that the companies with great cultures have come through this pandemic very, very well because they took care of their people. The companies that did not have good culture are the ones that are really suffering.
That makes a lot of sense.
Culture kicks the you-know-what out of strategy.
Yep.
Yeah, no, at the end of the day, sure.
Final question for me before we move into the crystal ball. Like Schatz and myself, you're no stranger to the trade show circuit, but we do think ICR is a special show. What could you share about what makes this different than other shows that we all allocate some time to?
Well, it's going to go back to what I just said. It starts with the ICR culture. I've known them for years. I've worked with them for years. I'm a friend of ICR. They have a name for it. I don't want to mispronounce, so I want to be careful. But Friends of ICR. It's a Boker or something like that. So, and I got a special orange band a few years ago from Tom.
Nice.
So that's what it starts with. They got great people. They're smart, they're professional. But they're good people. That's number one. So that makes all the difference in the world because their sense of hospitality is exactly what you'd want to see. The other thing is, it's been mentioned before, they have not just the restaurant track, they have the retail track, and they have a cannabis track. So they have all these industries coming together. They've also enlarged their technology presence as well. But they do a wonderful job hosting it. This is a great venue, and that's what it is. They just go out of their way to make sure that everyone feels special and welcome. Now, other shows do that. But this show is unique in that regard, and it also helps to be in January in Orlando.
Yes,
it's a good time when you take and no disrespect to the National Retail Federation, but January in New York, not the best place to be.
Yeah.
And somehow Shatzy's badge at the NFR is no longer working. Okay.
Yeah, well, I've just been disinvited.
Fred, as we like to say, it would never be a podcast without a crystal ball moment where we ask our guests where do they see restaurants and technology 2 years from now. So since we're at ICR today, we want to know when we come back here 2 years from now, what do you think are going to be some of the hot topics and what, if anything, may have changed or evolved?
I think the evolution will be that the digitization of the industry will mature. People get more comfortable with technology. There's a big problem out there right now is there's a lot of technology companies chasing a few dollars in restaurants. And everyone's trying to sell you some feature. And those $100 a month subscriptions add up after a while. And so I think there's going to be more consolidation in the technology space. There's some technology companies that frankly are more features than companies. And they just need to be bought by someone else and just make it part of the seamless package. Kind of like, sense. It's like Microsoft Office 360, the suite.
Just keep on adding more features to it. 100%.
And make it more affordable in that regard. So I think the maturation of this digitization will begin to occur at some point. Hopefully at that time, the world won't be so insane. There's a little bit more stability. I mean, there's something I don't mind the chaos. I mean, my title's chaos strategist. Okay, because you can make changes rapidly when there's chaos. When things are orderly and in a slow moving pace, you can't make change easily or quickly. And so there's a tremendous amount of creative destruction going on in this industry, and it's going to be interesting to see what brands will rise to the top through this next couple of years.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Now, that's a crystal ball moment.
That's by the way,
That's the kind of answer you're looking for.
I'm telling you, we're going to memorialize that one.
I mean, honestly, we're going to use that little clip. All right, listen, Fred's got a lot of work to do out there, so let's get to it. We've got the Branded Quickfire Orlando edition live from ICR. Fred, I'm going to ask you 5 lightning round
This is like Jeopardy, right?
This is like Jeopardy.
I am not going to be the winner, but go ahead.
5 lightning round questions. Don't think too hard. Are you ready, sir?
Yes.
Disney World or Universal Studios?
Disney World.
True or false? Mr. Rogers wrote Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood in Orlando.
Wow, yes. True.
That is true. Mr. Rogers, Jimmy,
You're correct.
actually wrote Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood as his senior thesis at none other than Rollins College, based here in Orlando.
I love it.
Yeah, no, that's see the information you're getting from this podcast today?
It's a learning experience.
It really is.
For everybody.
It's just amazing. Favorite Orlando-born singer, Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, or Christina Aguilera?
Christina. Best voice.
Look at that. Orlando Magic or Miami Heat?
Miami Heat.
Miami Heat.
If you were to ride Space Mountain with Jimmy and I, who do you think is the first person to start screaming when the roller coaster drops?
I think the both of you holding hands would be screaming, raising them high in the air. It's a tie.
It's a tie.
I agree.
tie.
I would scream on. I would scream. I scream on roller coasters.
I'm a
I'm a
screamer.
screamer.
Yeah.
I'm a screamer.
And you would be
and I'm
holding
proud
hands.
of it.
That's right.
I'm proud of it.
Listen, Fred, we know you have a very busy schedule, so we are very appreciative for you spending some time with us. Not just even this morning here at the conference, but the time you commit to us and the team at Branded. We value. You said you're a friend of ICR, and you're also a really good friend of the entire Branded team. So thank you to our listeners. We want to thank you so much for tuning in to this special episode. We know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and despite Shatsy's banter that it's only my family and him that are listening to this thing.
Fred's listening.
And Fred's listening.
here.
The truth is our subscriber base has grown exponentially, and we are very appreciative of the continued support that we get from you.
We get like 15,000 listeners an episode.
Look at that.
I don't know. Is that a lot? It sounds like a lot.
Sounds a lot to me.
Yeah,
All right,
sounds like a
listen,
lot.
if you want to get in touch with any of our special guests here today, you can email the podcast team at podcast@brandedstrategic.com, and we'd be happy to make the introduction. And again, to our listeners, with appreciation, thank you. This is Jimmy Frischling, your finance guy, signing off. Since Fred is with us, I'll say one more thank you to him. I'm going to pass it back to my boy, Shatsy.
I'm going to tell everybody, listen, thank you for listening. And by the way, you can find this podcast, Jimmy. I didn't know this. We're on like Spotify. You can find it on like Apple Music, iHeartRadio, or whatever. It's everywhere.
And Foodable. Don't forget Foodable.
And food, it's everywhere.
Yes, Foodable's our guys.
Hey, listen, thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate it. Cheers, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.